Live from the state capitol in Olympia, this is Community Conversation with your 7th District State Representatives, Jacueline Maycumber and Joel Kretz, and Senator Shelly Short. This is an opportunity to talk personally with your lawmakers about the issues affecting the 7th District. We appreciate you staying with us, and in just a few moments, we'll open up the phone lines so that you can talk directly to your legislators. But first, let me tell you how tonight's telephone town hall forum works. If you have a question for Representatives Maycumber and Kretz and Senator Short, press the star key on your telephone keypad. Again, that's the star key on your telephone keypad. You're also welcome to listen to the conversation, and anytime throughout the hour, if you would like to go live with your lawmakers, all you have to do is press the star key, and our operators will assist you. Also, you'll have the opportunity to vote in our instant results survey. We're going to try to get to as many calls as possible. However, if we don't get to you, you will have the option of leaving a message for your 7th District lawmakers at the end of this conference. Our phone lines are now open. If you would like to talk with Representatives Maycumber and Kretz and Senator Short, press the star key on your telephone keypad. That's the star key if you have a question for your state lawmakers. And now I would like to welcome to Community Conversation our guests, 7th District State Representatives Jacueline Maycumber, Joel Kretz, and Senator Shelly Short. And good evening, 7th District. I'm your host, John Satgast, and we welcome you tonight to your 7th District Telephone Town Hall. We're going to start out tonight with introductions. First off, Senator Shelly Short. Good evening.
Good evening, and I want to say thanks and welcome to everybody back home. I'm so glad that you joined us tonight from the comfort of your homes in a district that spans 12,000 square miles. So anyway, just want to thank you for sending me here to Olympia to represent you. This is my first full year in the Senate after the appointment last year, and just quickly go over, I'm ranking minority member on Senate Local Government, and I serve on the Senate Higher Education Committee and Workforce Development Committee. So I'm really excited about that and how I can make a difference for the 7th District.
And we're excited to have you, Senator Short. Thanks for being with us tonight. You are listening to a telephone town hall tonight, telephone conversation with your 7th District State Representatives. If you have a question of them, press the star key. Look down on your telephone keypad, press the star key. And our next guest with us tonight is State Representative Jacueline Maycumber. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. And I really look forward to the questions. This has been a big year in the state legislature this year, and to be a part of that has been an honor to fight for the district, to fight for rural Washington and give us a voice over here. So it's been an honor to be here. I'm assistant ranking on environment and on the Healthcare and Wellness Committee. So we have a lot working on, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the session.
All right, and it's an honor to have you here as well, Representative Maycumber. And again, just to remind you, you're in a telephone town hall meeting with Representatives Senator Shelly Short and Representatives Jacueline Maycumber, and our next representative is State Representative Joel Kretz. Good evening.
Good evening. I appreciate everybody being on tonight. And I want to thank you for the success we've had with this. This is the 7th District shows up when they need to, and this has always been the absolute record-breaking teletown hall from Olympia. So appreciate you being engaged, and it sure makes a difference for us being in touch with you folks.
And again, just to remind you, if you have a question for your state representatives and your senator, all you have to do is look down at your telephone keypad, press the star key. There's a little star button down there, so that's what I wanted to just bring your thoughts to and your attention to, that star key on your telephone keypad. Press that if you have a question for your state lawmakers. So we're going to start out tonight just talking about some of the issues and things like that, and we'll get to your phone calls here in just a few moments. Again, if you're just joining us, we're in a live telephone conversation, a community conversation with Representatives Jacueline Maycumber and Joel Kretz and Senator Shelly Short. Press the star key if you have a question for your lawmakers. So let's get started tonight. And first of all, and probably the biggest thing, the biggest lift of the year, we have a Hirst fix. So let's talk about what was involved to bring this all together. And we're going to start out with Representative Kretz, because I know you were involved in some leadership negotiations. Go ahead.
Well, for those of you that don't know, the Hirst decision was, I think, in November 2016, and it essentially shut down water use in rural Washington. It was a lawsuit in front of the Supreme Court who ruled against basically rural water users. And it didn't really affect the cities, but it sure was hurting things in the rural parts of the state. basically restricting your ability to drill a well. So we've been working on that ever since. It was our biggest issue last session. We were here through special sessions working on it. We're really close at one point, but we couldn't get it done. And there's been negotiations during the off season until session that moved things a little closer. Basically, the dynamics are this. It's easy to give away other people's water. And that's what the urban parts of the state were doing, was it didn't affect them. It affected our rural exempt wells, which are named exempt wells because they've always been considered exempt. Very small impact on stream flows or water in the aquifer. They put most of it back in. So the urban legislators needed some convincing and explaining, and the negotiations were brutal. We had a number of people worked on them. Senator Warnick did a great job all the way through. David Taylor on our side worked all the way through. Representative Byes from Whatcom County, where the case originated, we had him in part of it, and he helped. And Senator Short really made a difference in the last few days. We were able to get her in the negotiations to give a perspective from one of the most hard-hit areas from the impacts of the Hirst decision. And when we were looking at the map, even with just a couple days to go, rural Washington was taking a beating, in the 7th District in particular, and Shelly was able to bring a lot of powerful data that explained what it would do to our folks back home. We came out of it. I think rural Washington, it's a huge gain. Pretty much everybody can get water. Building can start again. You can get building permits and go ahead on it. But it was really critical that we got that rural information in, and especially the 7th District. I've never been in a meeting in Olympia where the negotiators on an issue like this came in and said, well, we did pretty good, but the 7th is golden. So it was a great team effort, and I'm really glad that that's resolved.
And again, we're talking with your 7th District lawmakers. If you have a question for your lawmakers, press the star key on your telephone keypad. Look down and find the star key and go ahead and press that. Senator, I want to bring you into this because it sounds like you were key in the negotiation process in the very end of this. In your experience, and you've been here for a while, was this among maybe some of your most difficult negotiations in your time in the legislature, and why?
Without a doubt, because everybody's interests, the tribes have interests, the environmental groups have interests, and like, Joel said, it's really easy to give away something of someone else's, and we have that happen in our rural communities quite a bit. But I got to just say the key in this whole thing was really work that Scott Barr and Bob Morton, our former state senators, did. And their tireless work to bring local watershed plans and local water decisions back to the local community, empowering what's going on locally instead of top-down control. And that really became the framework for what ultimately helped break the negotiations free. But I'm tough, and I wasn't going to let go of having the 7th District or Eastern Washington, or really as many areas as possible. We needed to fix it. And I think we had good negotiations. They were tough at times, a lot of late nights, but in the end, I'm really pleased. The bottom line is that it really solidifies and protects existing uses, existing stock water, existing wells, existing development, existing agriculture, but really just gives a good path forward for, new wells and new development and new homes. And I'm just so honored to have been a part of that. It's been quite a ride the last week.
Senator Short just gave us a little bit of a list, but Representative Maycumber, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what does the Hirst agreement mean for the 7th District specifically?
It's so important, as we hear from Representative Kretz and Senator Short, to understand that this legislation was put on the building code. And it's easy to put something on a building code when, if we open up the water code, municipalities would have to review really what they're using, what they're taking from. So to put it in perspective, really where we were looking at ending the negotiations were putting meters on wells. You only get a few, gallons in your home indoor, but the person next door or, government agency can use as much water as they want if they were hooked up to the city, pulling from the exact same aquifer. So it really comes down to controlling who can build, where they can build, and really why. And that's, you sent us here to fight. And fight we did. We drew a line and we said, we're not going to negotiate against our liberties. And that's so important when you set that line and you go to war and then you come out and say, we have the right to pursue happiness and life, and water is life. Water is life.
Well, I was going to ask a few questions on some other issues, but the 7th District traditionally they get on the line and they want to talk, and we have a lot of people on the line tonight. So let's get right to it. We're going to get out to Tonasket, and Nancy, you're our first caller this evening on the Community Conversation. Good evening, and thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you. I am wondering if the Wildlands project is still recognized by our Park Service. The mission statement of it was accepted by the United Nations, and the vision, the official vision in the mission statement is it says our vision is simple. We live for the day when grizzlies in Chihuahua have an unbroken connection to grizzlies in Alaska, when gray wolf populations are continuous from New Mexico to Greenland, when vast unbroken forests and flowing plains. It goes on and on. It's crazy talk to me, but it is not crazy when you see what's really going on. The lockup of so much land. Thankfully, Trump turned some back over to states. But so this, the Y2Y, Yukon to Yellowstone that you all had to deal with. We were up in Alaska at the time, but is this still the ongoing scheme? Is that why they're trying to lock up water and stop development?
Well, yeah, you're right.
Is that your opinion, or do you have any knowledge of that?
No, I completely agree. I mean, you can go to a million websites and you'll see very active efforts to promote this. It's in many cases it's a federal issue, but there's also state parts of it. There's local parts of it. And it occasionally rears its head in Olympia here, and we've been able to lop it off each time. But there's a lot of powerful entities behind this thing, and it's very active. You mentioned the Yukon to Yellowstone thing. That made quite a run here in Olympia a few years ago. They've identified corridors. They want one right through Okanagan County, Ferry County, Stevens, Pondere, on linking the Cascades with the Rockies. There's been some identified routes. There's work going on right now, Tunk area. They've identified that as a possible route. So it's something that you've just got to keep watching. Where's the next manifestation, and be ready to shoot it down here, because I believe it's the rewilding of North America. Some really deep ecology concepts that are really anti-people. I think we all enjoy wildlife and are able to live with them and coexist. But this gives total priority to all those species, and they're particularly focused on the mega predators, moving wolves and grizzlies around. If they want to route them right through Seattle, I might be a little bit open to that, but it's something in the rural areas we've really got to watch.
All right, Nancy, thanks for your call. We appreciate it. We're on a community conversation with State Representatives Jacueline Maycumber, Joel Kretz, and Senator Shelly Short. If you have a question for your lawmakers, press the star key, look down at your telephone keypad, and press the star key. Our next caller is in Valley, Washington. It's Patty. Good evening, and thanks for being with us. Hello, Patty.
Hi.
Patty, hi. Go ahead. You're live with your state lawmakers.
Well, I just wanted to first of all say thank you very much for going to bat for us and preserving our rights. If I understand, does this mean that things go back the way they were before the Hirst decision was going to be put on us?
They do, Patty. There are some nuances depending on where you live. As you know, there's the Little Spokane watershed in the Spokane area, and part of that takes in a little bit of Stevens and Pondere County. So our decision doesn't fix everything, because obviously we took it back pre-Hirst, and so some of the in-stream flow rules with DOE are still problematic, but I would say by and large it does, and we're going to work on those specific areas too to see if we can make a difference. But I'm really pleased it did turn Hirst back.
Thank you very much, Patty. Community Conversation. We're talking with your state lawmakers from the 7th Legislative District. If you have a question for them, all you have to do is press the star key. Look down on your telephone keypad and press the star key. Next caller is Tom. Tom, you're in Addy. Good evening, and thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. my greatest fear as a rural landowner is summer wildfires. And in 2015, it was pretty well known that some of them were arson-created fires. And I'm just wondering if any of you three have any ideas as to how to counteract this. And I'll listen now and see what you say.
Well, I have legislation this year, 2175, that addresses some of these high fuel loads that could catch fire, especially the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and allows them to address these fuel loads. So if you do have a fire, they can quickly be mitigated. SEPA takes up to 2 years to cut down diseased trees or introduce goats or cattle into an area with a high fuel load. So this legislation was just voted out of committee today, I want to mention, and it allows the Department of Fish and Wildlife to go in and decrease fuel mitigation, and that's very important when we talk about wildfires and really those big fires that take off, that we as a state have to take care of the properties that we manage, and this is another tool in the toolbox that allows them to do that.
All right, Tom, thanks for your question. We appreciate it. We're talking with your 7th District lawmakers. Our next caller is in Okanagan. We're talking with Roberta. Good evening, and thanks for being with us, Roberta.
Yes, my question is concerning some of this stuff that Inslee and the other side of the mountain is always voting on. Like now they're doing the pop tax, and I understand Inslee wants to put it over the whole state because it would be a money maker, of course. And also, actually I agree with Trump on these sanctuary cities. They should get cut off of all funding. And what is you guys' sentiments on that? We can't just expect everybody to support everybody. It's government and private.
Well, the soda tax, I believe it's Seattle right now, and there's a lot of people smuggling soda pop into Seattle. I haven't heard about a statewide proposal, but I can tell you this: if Governor Inslee can tax you on something, he is going to do it. Wait till you see the carbon tax if you're worried about soda pop. As far as the sanctuary cities, yeah, I disagree. I believe that they're in opposition to federal law, and I believe that if you're not here legally, that you should be plugged into the system, and if there's something done wrong, that those folks need to be dealt with. And we've seen kind of an influx in sanctuary cities of people really that really shouldn't be in the country, not just undocumented, but I mean criminals. They feel like those are safe havens, and I support defunding that.
And Senator Short.
Well, I just wanted to follow up and let you know that actually a Senate bill, Joel, was introduced, and it was introduced by Andy Billig from the 3rd District in Spokane.
No, there goes the Senate again.
I know. to tax our soda, and it's very unfortunate. I don't know if his bill is going to get any action, but the Democrats do control the Senate, so I would imagine if they want to put that forward, they will.
All right, Roberta, thanks for your call this evening. Again, you're talking with your 7th District lawmakers in a community conversation. If you have a question for them, press the star key. And our next caller in Deer Lake, and he has some concerns about sanctuary state as well. Good evening, Ron. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I just got a couple quick questions. I'm just really concerned about our governor. He's he's going off and wants to make our state a sanctuary state, and all the people I've talked to over here on the east side, in Deer Lake area especially, they are so down on this, and they're afraid, hey, what's going on with us? He shouldn't have the right to do that. It's going to cost us millions of dollars in lawyer fee. And then the second question is, what in the heck is going on with our taxes again for gasoline? We're already the highest one in the region, or in the world almost. That's my questions.
All right, thanks, Ron, and Representative Maycumber.
Thank you, Ron, for asking that question. So in Assistant Ranking and Environment, we just had what's called the Low Carbon Fuel Standard go through committee today, and it passed out. So let me describe what that means to you and I. It means that we have to purchase on the market with California a biofuel Now, this biofuel is made up of corn stalk and animal byproducts, and it can only be made over in Asia and Indonesia because it is made with coal. So what they do is they burn it really, really high, and they make a biofuel, and then they ship it back across the ocean, and then we buy it. So, yesterday it was going for 40 cents on the gallon, and tomorrow it can go up to $2 because we're buying it on a market, and we're mandating that it's put in our gasoline. Now, this hasn't, it hasn't been fully passed, just passed the committee. And what that means to you and I is that we're going to have to pay for driving to the doctor, getting food, all food. So, I mean, you think about all the produce you buy, all the food you buy, feed for cattle and other animals has gone up at least 40% since 2001 when the corn stalk biofuel legislation went through federally. Since 2001, 90% of all corn stalk was made to feed people, and now only 40% is. So we're taking that corn stalk, shipping it to Indonesia, using carbon or using coal to make a biofuel, and then we're shipping it back to America and Washington State, and you're buying it on the market with California, and you're just increasing your taxes. And what you're thinking to yourself, well, next year if I pay another $2 a gallon in tax, where's that money going to go? Is it going to help the environment? What is it going to do? No, it goes to a fund, and it's called Connecting Washington. And what that money will do is it will electrify our transportation grid. Now, does that sound like something that our district is going to benefit from? No, that would be the Seattle area, downtown. So you're going to be paying a tax every single day for every single tomato that you receive, to take your kids to the doctor, everything you do, and that money is going to be going to downtown Seattle for a program that we cannot benefit. So it's really upsetting that this is going through committee, and it's already proven that it does not help the environment. It's 0.2% if we take out these fossil fuels, and it actually increases carbon if you use from the source, and that includes burning coal to process the fuel.
Senator Short.
Well, I just wanted to take a minute and address the sanctuary state issue. I think the unfortunate thing, we all support legal immigration and folks coming into this country. I think we are all part of families who at some point came to this country. The unfortunate part with it is it really allows people to get away with breaking the rules and the laws. And the hard part of this is for folks in other countries who are trying to come into this country legally. It makes it very difficult for them, and it sends mixed messages to folks that are trying to do it the legal way. And really, a sanctuary state is really just cover for not following the rules. And so it really makes it so the Immigration and Naturalization Service, law enforcement, and all of that have to stand down. And I don't think that's what our country was founded on, and it's a mistake to do that.
Ron, thanks for your call. We appreciate it. If you have a question for your 7th District lawmakers, all you have to do is press the star key. Our next caller is in 9 Mile Falls. I'll get it. Good evening. It's Willie. Thanks for being with us, Willie. Hello, Willie. Willie, are you out there? One more try for Willie. Willie? All right, we're going to go ahead and go to our next caller then. And our next caller is Betty. Betty, you're in Valley. Good evening, and thanks for being with us.
My question is, my concern is wanting to put a tax or whatever it is for the miles that you travel. Well, we are in a very rural area. There are people that drive 30, 50, 100 miles to work every day, and that is a great burden on families, and I just think that's a terrible thing to do to the rural areas. All the people that are in Seattle, or bigger towns, they don't care, but the rural people, that's going to put a very heavy burden on them.
Any comments? Go ahead, Representative Maycumber.
When you look at the vehicles mile traveled, and they say, well, it'll be in place of a gas tax. Now, listen, it's not going to be in place of a gas tax. We're looking at low carbon fuel standards, carbon tax. These things are compounding on each other. But on the vehicles mile travel tax, when you look at that, when you're sitting on 405 for an hour or I-5, you're not really moving, right? So you're not implementing this tax that they're talking about. You and I, while we're driving, and sometimes, driving out of the state or out of the area is half our district, borders Idaho, and to really implement this, you have to look at, the policies that will be enacted. Are we going to pay for just the roads in Washington? Are we going to use GPS programs? Or are we going to pay for every mile we drive? And it's just another way in making it difficult for the working people, the people that are hit the hardest, to get to their jobs. And what jobs there is after implementing a lot of these taxes and how they affect our economy. It really is burdensome on the people that pay the most.
Betty, thanks for your call. This is Community Conversation with your 7th District State Representatives and your Senator. And if you have a question for them, all you have to do is press the star key. Next caller is in Newport, and it's Robert. Hi, Robert.
Hi, it's Robert Rosencrantz from Newport. Senator Short, it was great to see you at the March for Life yesterday. Representative Maycumber, thanks for your hard work, but my comment and question are for Representative Kretz. And the One Washington Water Act, it's absolutely brilliant, and it's brilliant both as politics, but I think it would be stunningly good policy. So my question is there anyone on the Natural Resources Committee with you, a Democrat, that might look at it and say, long term, we're going to have some limits on what urban areas can pull out of the water supply? Is there someone that might advance the legislation through the committee with you?
Well, I wish. The purpose of the bill was just to highlight, what I mentioned earlier about, it's easy to give away other people's water. And this was designed to drill it home to the urban legislators that this is what you're doing to us. How would you like to live under those rules? Which is, I think, a conversation we've got to have. As far as moving forward, I think it's going to be something that may be on the table, but it's pretty hard. What I was using it for right now basically was that we needed to get this Hirst fix. And those conversations are conversations that the urban lawmakers do not want to have. And I was joking with Jacueline the other day that, I dropped the bill on Friday and it was on the intro sheet on Monday and we came to agreement on Hirst Tuesday. It's not because of that bill, but it actually did inject something into the conversation, a conversation that they do not want to have. Going forward, I think we're going to have to look at that. You look at, we looked at Seattle on their modeling. They've got a 12-foot pipe running from the Cedar River watershed down to Seattle. None of that water goes back to the basin that it originated in, which supposedly they're taking our water, so, they're worried about recharging the aquifer stream flows. Well, what about the Cedar River? It's coming up a little dry. No regulation, no discussion even. The problem in committee, I think the chair possibly might vote for it, but the Speaker of the House and generally the Democrat Party, which is generally an urban party, did not want to talk about it, so it was pretty well restricted. The chair got shut down on it, couldn't even get a hearing, but it's okay, it did its purpose.
All right, Robert, thanks for your call. Hey, I just want to remind folks, that I want to give you a little bit of information about how you can get a hold of your 7th District lawmakers after this program and of course, going on in the future. If you'd like to get some information about Representative Kretz, you can go to his website. It's www.representativejoelkretz.com. Kretz is spelled Kretz.com. Phone number is 360-786-7988. You can email him. It's very easy to email any of your state lawmakers. It's their first name, a dot, and last name at leg.wa.gov. So for Representative Kretz, it'd be joel.kretz@leg.wa.gov. For Representative Maycumber, it's representative.Jacueline.Maycumber.com. Jacueline is JACQUEUELIN. Maycumber is MAYCUMBER. So it's representative.Jacueline.Maycumber.com. Phone number for Representative Maycumber is 360-786-7908. And again, it's Jacueline.Maycumber@leg.wa.gov. And of course, for Senator Short, it's Shelly Short.SRCWA.State.leg.org. I'm going to say that again because that's a little bit more complicated than the others. ShellyShort.SRC.WaState.leg.org. And for her email address, it's Shelly.Short, and Shelly, SHELLY.Short@leg.wa.gov. And her phone number is 360-786-7908. 7612. We'll have some more of those numbers later on in the hour. But again, we're talking with your 7th District state lawmakers, and we want to talk to you tonight. So if you have a question of them, press the star key on your community conversation line. The telephone number right there is the star if you have a question for your lawmakers. Our next caller is in Omak, is Wayne. Hi, Wayne. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Hello. Just want to make a few comments first. It's nice to have our legislators that we do have. It'd be nice if there was more of them that the same type of thinking in Olympia. Nice that the Hirst fix, although I asked him that we had to pay like $300 more for a building permit, and we have less gallons we can draw per day. If I understand right. One issue is concerning driving scofflaws. Okanagan Chronicle, there's so many issues concerning DUIs, interlocked violations, eluding police, failure to appear, and so on for driving offenses. It can be kind of bad out there, it seems like, as for driving. I was wondering, how could the state somehow help reduce these problems?
Well, most of those, is local law enforcement. We've got the Sheriff's Department there, which handles a lot of that in Okanagan County. Of course, on the state end, we've got the State Patrol dealing with those, and they do emphasis patrols in areas where there's serious problems. I would encourage you, if you're seeing a lot of that, to get that to the State Patrol and the County Sheriff and see if they can't do emphasis patrols around areas where that kind of behavior is rampant.
All right, Wayne, thanks for your call. We appreciate it. Our next caller, we're going to go to Republic, and we're talking with, I believe it's Dana. Hi, Dana. Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How about yourself?
I am fine. And
good. We have your lawmakers here, and they want to talk to you. Go ahead. You have a question?
Yes, I do. This is probably directed at all three, but Representative Maycumber. I had a question in regards to the House Bill 2773, which is the act relating to creating the Veteran Service Officer Program here for the counties. I'm much for this. I actually am. We need jobs up here, and that definitely would be a job. However, I'd like to know, was this bill requested by our county also up here in requesting that they needed additional service officers? Because I represent the Ferry County Mountain Veterans Center and Vietnam Veteran Wives and so on, and we are accredited service officers, and I just like to know how this bill came into existence.
Representative Maycumber, go ahead.
Thank you so much. It's nice to hear from you. So there was a great concern. We had multiple meetings with stakeholders around the area that there was a lot of veterans that were not being assisted, and really the county's veterans funds were going to paying for firewood or socks and shoes, and really, as you well know, all your hard work within the community, that the highest rate of suicide and poverty is our veterans community, and we have some of the highest per capita not only in the state but in the nation. And we really need to take care of our veterans first. And as you know, a veteran service officer, we have one that is accredited through a VSO through the Department of Veterans Affairs in Spokane Valley. We have individuals that will get rides for 4 hours, and I had one sleep on the doorstep of a service officer to find out the services that were available that they earned. And you well know it's so difficult. Our servicemen and women should know exactly what they've earned or what they have some of the things they have coming to them that change, hourly and daily, and sometimes those federal policies can change. So this was brought forth with a lot of time over the last year, really talking to stakeholders, looking at what would be the best option. Tomorrow morning is the hearing. The Department of Veterans Affairs is looking at it, been working really positively with us to make sure that we have a program where we as a state take responsibility to make sure these are the community that protected us, that protects us and allowing us to do what we need to do, and our families and that we protect them. And this is really important that we protect our veterans community.
Deanna, thanks for your call. We're going to go to our next caller in Cusick. It's Phil. Good evening. Thanks for being with us, Phil.
Good evening. As a vet myself, I appreciate all you guys have done. But my question is for Olympia in general. When it comes to taxes, they don't listen to us over here at all. And when is enough taxes enough? My wife went through cancer treatments this last year for breast cancer, and had that mileage tax been in, there would have been no way I could afford to even get her treatments. And now they're wanting to raise taxes again and again and again. When is enough enough?
You're absolutely right, Phil, and I'm so sorry about your wife. And that's the point of these taxes. It's hurting those that are working the hardest. It's hurting those. I mean, really, when you talk about regressive taxes, carbon tax and these vehicles mileage travels tax, they're the worst of the worst because they're the ones trying to get to the work. You're trying to get to your cancer treatment, and we are doing everything we can to draw a line in the sand and say, you can't keep putting it on the backs of the working class. You can't keep putting on the backs of our rural communities. And you are absolutely right. And thank you so much for getting involved.
Phil, I think that's probably the biggest point that we get over here is we can't take any more of these taxes. We're all willing, I think, to contribute to our communities, but when we see it going, especially for silly things, when it ends up, in our community, we have some control. That's one thing. That if we have a local choice, but the Puget Sound area is drunk on spending, frankly, and they have never seen a tax they don't like in most cases, and that's what we're fighting over here every day is taxes that are above and beyond. I think the state of Washington is getting way more in taxes than it needs. The state needs to live within its means, and we also need to be recognizing that one tax doesn't have the same impact when you're living in Seattle. You think about the vehicle miles traveled, you're driving 3 blocks to work, or you're getting on state-subsidized transit, that sort of thing. We don't have those opportunities. We have to go to where our jobs are, to our health care is, and it's one of the biggest fights that we're in every single day over here.
All right. Thanks, Phil. We appreciate your comment. And there's also concerns out there with a number of callers about some of the gun control legislation that's going on. Tom has that concern out here in Newport. Good evening, Tom. Hello, Tom? Tom, are you with us?
Are you Newport? Newport.
Yeah, you're in Newport. Hi, Tom. Yeah, we're waiting to hear from you. Go ahead.
I'm in Deer Park.
Oh, Deer Park. Okay, my mistake. Somebody gave me the wrong news here. Go ahead, Tom. We'd like to hear from you tonight.
I'm concerned about the direction our state's headed towards the California gun legislations that they've been passing down there, and they keep piling one good legislation on top of another, restricting our Second Amendment rights. I hope that there's an active battle going on in our legislature over that.
Well, there is an active battle going on, but I'll tell you what, we can't do it without you and other folks like you who share concerns. That's probably the single largest issue that I've received from folks since we got here to Olympia. And with obviously the Democrats in control of the Senate, there's concern over some of these bills getting through, and I think you should be concerned. There's bump stock legislation that goes far and above the issue that was the result of the tragic shooting in Las Vegas. They want to put local governments in the position of regulating our guns locally. And I don't know which ones, if any, are going to go forward, but they are certainly making an effort, and I think it's important for folks back home to continue to write and share your comments. You can also share your comments with people on the Judiciary Committee in both the House and Senate. Those are the folks that are hearing these bills, and just let them know that you don't have the appetite for it.
And Mel has the other question on this as well. Mel, you're in Tonasket. You've also got concerns about the gun bills.
Yeah, I do. First thing I wanted to do was I want to thank Joel Kretz for his tough, strong, and hard work on the wolf situation. Much appreciated. But my question, and what I want to talk about is like the previous caller on the gun control. I know there's several bills floating around in Olympia trying to control different versions of the guns that we own. And I know that the NRA is involved in helping with the fight. And I'm just wondering if we're going to be able to beat this back, or is this going to be something we're going to have to learn to live with?
I don't think we're going to learn to live with it. I think I could sum all of our positions up in one word: no. We've been fighting these for a long time. We've been mostly successful. We've had setbacks by initiative. There's 75 Democrats in the House and the Senate between the two, and there's one that I count on a gun vote, and that's Brian Blake from down in Grays Harbor. With the majority so close here, one vote makes a big difference, and I would say we need to support his position on guns. What we need to do is find some more Democrats that would actually stand up for the Second Amendment. 1 out of 75 isn't very good odds, but I'm hopeful we can stop them. But it's going to take engagement by citizens. We need folks en masse contacting legislators. If we get it out of the legislature, we're done, because the governor will sign any gun legislation he can get close to. So I think we've got a chance in the legislature. Get engaged. We've got the NRA is involved, other gun groups. We need to support them. We need to really make a plea to other legislators. We need some reinforcements over here.
Thank you, Mel. And since we're on this topic, let's go to Kay in Chihuahua. She has some concerns about infringing on Second Amendment rights as well. Go ahead, Kay.
Oh, thank you. I agree with the two previous callers 100%, and basically they have expressed my concerns that they're taking away our Second Amendment rights, because guns don't kill people. People kill people. And I believe that we need to enforce the existing laws that we have, and also make efforts to address the many mental issues that seem to be coming forward, people with them. And I appreciate your comments, and I would ask that you let us know as citizens exactly what we can do. Spell it out for us. Send us some specifics so that as individuals we could spread the word to other individuals and let everybody in our community that like I know that feel this way on this issue and activate them. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to address your comment on mental health, treatment. You're so right. And the thing, I am so proud of the efforts in our communities to take these issues on. The county commissioners, in partnership with the local Mount Carmel Hospital and Stevens County Counseling, put together a tremendous, facility for early treatment and just assessment and treatment of mental health conditions. They had the ribbon cutting on that. It was last fall. There are efforts that are being made in Spokane right now, and I think the biggest thing is capacity. I think we know there are a lot of individuals because of drug use and other things that really lead them to crisis in dealing with mental health issues. And so capacity is the most important piece, and we are addressing that in the legislature. In terms of the Second Amendment, you can get on the governor's website. There's a public website. There's also a public website on the legislature to find out the committees where these pieces of gun legislation are being heard. You can send notes to us. You can send notes to those committee members, and you can also track legislation too. And I'm remiss because I'm not thinking of the website right now, but when I do, we'll follow up and let you know. But you can check the status and see what's going on with the gun legislation.
Representative Kretz.
And just part of your question, what can you do? Shelley put some good things out there, but the key, I think, is going to be in the House. I think the bill will probably pass out of committee. Looking at the makeup of the committee, it's going to be a floor fight. And what would be really helpful is if downtown Seattle's a lost cause, they'll take your guns and knives and charge you for your vehicle miles traveled, and take your water. But more of the suburban legislators, if you have friends, family over on the west side, especially the suburban districts, those people need to hear from their constituents. It's one thing you can call them and it may have a bit of an impact, but if their own constituents are calling them saying, we support the Second Amendment and we want to be able to keep our gun rights, hearing from their own people is a huge help. So if you got contacts on the west side, Puget Sound region particularly, encourage those folks to call in.
And Senator Short.
Well, there's two websites. I'm still not thinking of the second one, but the first one is access.wa.gov, and that gets you into the governor's. But there are links to track legislation, or if you just Google the Washington State Legislature, 2018 bills, that'll come up, and then you can key in that way. But it gives you really good up-to-date information on the pieces of legislation you're interested in.
And Kay, you were wondering about contacting folks as well, and we have a toll-free hotline here at the legislature that you might want to write this number down. It's 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. You can contact any legislator through that number and leave a message for them. So your legislators here, or any legislator, that's 1-800-562-6000. Thanks for your, and Representative Short, you had one more question?
Oh, no, I was just sending you a note.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. We're passing notes like in class, which is kind of fun. Thanks, Kay, for your call. Hey, you know what? We got Willie back, and hopefully, Willie, you're still there. Hi. We tried to get back to you earlier. Willie, you're in 9 Mile Falls. Good evening.
Yes, I'm still here, and I still haven't heard an answer to my previous question.
Okay, so go ahead. What's your previous question?
Why can Spokane County, right across the river from me, burn, and I can't live in Stephen County?
So that is the result, and you aptly put it in your question, because your community of 9 Mile Falls, Suncrest area became an urban growth area. The state statutes, the state laws preclude you from being able to burn in your communities. My first year in the legislature, I had a bill that would have allowed you to burn, under certain conditions on certain weekends, depending on the air, like your air and weather conditions. And the groups that came unglued were the American Cancer Society and American Lung Association and things like that. And my challenge to them was, well, it's not going to do any good if it burns, in wildfire. And I am very concerned for you. I haven't seen any legislation to actually pull unincorporated areas like yours out of the GMA, but I think that would probably be the way you'd need to go.
Thanks for coming back on with us, Willie. We appreciate it. We're talking with your 7th District lawmakers, Senator Shelly Short, Representative Jacueline Maycumber, and Representative Joel Kretz. Now, we have lots of callers on the line, but we're running short on time. So just want to remind you that if we don't get to you, we're going to try to get to a few more callers before the end of the hour. If we don't get to you still, please don't go away. Stay on the line. We have a voicemail system at the end of the call. So please leave your question for your state lawmakers on our voicemail system if we're not able to get to you tonight on our live program. Our next caller is in Colville, and it's Brian. Good evening. Thanks for being with us on the Community Conversation.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I'm actually a half an hour north of Colville in Evans, and I'm internet challenged out here. I know that, keeping up with the urban centers with internet development and high-speed internet access is kind of a challenge. It's economically, it's in the best interest of communities to be able to access, internet services. And I'm wondering what initiatives are underway or to improve internet access for rural communities in eastern Washington.
Thank you, Brian. I helped co-sponsor a bill that's, I don't have the number right now, regarding allowing rural broadband access and funding for that mechanism. Because as we know, it's difficult is getting the companies out there and putting in the infrastructure. So hopefully that bill will be moving forward. I am looking forward to seeing it go, and that's something we really need to look at for our area and economic development.
All right. Thanks, Brian. We appreciate your call. Our next caller is in Loon Lake. We're talking with Tony. Good evening. Thanks for being with us, Tony.
Yes. My question is for Representative Kretz. Time-wise, what are we looking at to finish the 4-lane Highway 395 to connect it in Spokane to I-90, so we can get started coming up this way toward Deer Park?
I don't know, Tony, what the timeline is on that. There's quite a bit of money in the last transportation package for working on 395, but how quickly it gets up north, I don't know what the timetable is. We'll have to look at it.
All right. And Tom also had a question about this as well, so we're going to go ahead and go to Tom. Tom, you're in Colville. Good evening.
Good evening. I drove the highways of Eastern Washington professionally for 35 years, and I would like to know where this money for transportation to improve the roads in Eastern Washington, particularly the corridors from Spokane up into Ponderay County and Spokane up to Colville and even possibly farther north. I was absolutely amazed. I was gone for 8 years, and I come back, and there had been nothing done to the roads over here. I understand you're talking about taxes and the whole plethora of things that go along with it, but my God, you go over on the west side, and it's nothing but one continuous road project over there. And why isn't something done for Highway 2 and 395 north of Spokane? Thank you.
Well, Tom, this is Senator Short. Good question, and we often have the same concerns. As you know, a lot of these projects come from areas that are a lot more populated than ours, but one of the challenges that we have with the initial tax packages that were done quite a few years ago is they're still bonded for those projects. And so you have continuous tax money going into transportation, but it's to pay for those, to pay for those projects and those bonds. And so it takes quite a bit of time actually to get, new projects into the pipeline. And of course, we did with the last gas tax package did get Highway 395. And I agree with Representative Kretz. I'm not sure what the timeline is on it, but we just have to continue to advocate for those things, which we do. It just really comes down to which ones have more priority statewide, and so a lot of ours end up being either passing lanes or turning lanes, especially off of 395, or just resurfacing projects. They're much smaller in scale, but that is a huge challenge when it comes to transportation projects statewide. We have wanted to address the cost drivers of our transportation system to make better use of the money that you all send the state from your gas taxes. And the frustration, right now transportation projects pay sales tax, if you can believe it. So, our state gets money from these state projects, and it's preventing that money from actually going into more state projects. There's some of the prevailing wage aspects, and there's environmental restrictions that make our projects sometimes 2 to 2.5 times more expensive per mile of construction. So we'd like to see that the better use of the money that we have, and we could do expanded projects for sure.
And since we're talking about transportation and that, I'm going to go to Pat. Pat, you're in Colbert. You also had a question about the vehicle mile traveled tax and the North-South Freeway. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I've listened to several comments about the vehicle miles traveled and the cost of road repairs and whatnot, but my concern and question is vehicle miles traveled tax. Will that complete the North-South Freeway? Will it be completed in my lifetime? What do we have to do to get this completed? That will cut off immense travel times and miles for commuters going to the city, to the valley, and whatnot. My other comment is on this social agenda with the Department of Health. Can you give me some more information on that, and how did that come together with our Christian values? Thank you.
Well, I think the north-south freeway is funded through the last gas package several years ago. Is it going fast enough? No, but it was. I think it took 40 years to get it funded, and I believe the revenue coming off that will be going to the north-south. I hate to say be patient, but at least it is coming. Some of the other areas that have been waiting a long time are not. While we build bicycle paths in Seattle.
All right. Thanks, Pat, for your call. We appreciate it. We're going to roll on to Josh. Josh, you're in 9 Mile Falls. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you guys for taking my call, and I appreciate you guys fighting for us over here on the east side of Washington. I'm from Suncrest, the south end of Stevens County. And Joel, I appreciate you. About a month ago, you took our call in regards to Growth Management Act and how we could fight it. I don't know if you remember me, but
sure.
I appreciate you taking our call about a month ago. I wanted to get your take on, I believe it was a House bill that David Taylor was working on about a year ago in regards to Growth Management Act and fighting it, because there's some rural communities such as ours that we believe we don't fit in an urban growth area, and it's kind of frustrating to deal with, and so I'd get your guys' feedback on that.
Sure, that's been an ongoing battle since I've been here. I know when I took office, Kathy McMorris handed me a bunch of GMA bills that they'd worked on for who knows how long before. I agree that the Growth Management Act does not fit our rural counties. We don't have the development pressures that they were trying to address. And what it's really turned into is a moneymaker for litigants suing the counties over every little thing they try and do. I had a bill a few years ago that would have taken Stevens County out if we could have got it in its original form. I think the threshold was counties under 50,000. There was a lot of pushback on that. Some wanted to go bigger, some smaller, but we got it done to where we could get Ferry County out. They had the option to get out. So ongoing work.
All right. Thanks, Josh. I'm going to try to squeeze one last caller in here. It's Eric. Eric, you're in Colville. Good evening.
Yes, sir. I I have a question for y'all. Now that Governor Hirst wants to increase the what's that gas tax thing that anyway, he wants to put another gas tax on. Well, what about that pot tax, and where's that money going to, and why does he want a new carbon tax? That doesn't make any sense.
Eric, thank you so much for calling about that. It's an agenda. It's something that he can spout off and say, it helps the environment, but when you look at the science, it does not. It actually, in many ways, can increase carbon, especially if you're exporting our jobs. Like, for example, the aluminum industry in 95 and 2098, we lost 10,000 jobs, and we exported them to China. And so right now we're losing a lot of our jobs, and it's increasing taxes, it's increasing the burden on you and I, and it's another way to control. It's another way to get a dollar from us and really leech us for every aspect of our lives, including the food that you eat and getting to where you need to go. And it's an agenda, and he mentioned it's an agenda in his State of the State address, and we're working hard to stop it.
All right, Eric, we appreciate it very much. Well, we're out of time, folks. You guys have had some great callers tonight across the 7th Legislative District, so we're going to go around the table and kind of wrap up, and we'll start out with Representative Kretz.
Well, I'd just like to thank everybody that got on here. We enjoy this. This is one of the fun evenings that we get over here, and it's always good to hear from back home. Wish we could take every single call. This is fun, bouncing ideas back and forth. But stay engaged, folks. We'll be doing our best over here to carry what we hear from you forward in Olympia.
Representative Maycumber.
Thank you so much for being on tonight. I just want to mention when we talk about what you can do and how you can become involved, ignite your neighbor, because really the fuel that fires us and that continues, you need to pass that torch and say, this is what's happening with our Second Amendment. This is what's happening with our taxes. This is what's happening with our gases. And really ignite the person next to you. Talk to your neighbor. Talk to the person in the store and get involved with igniting the populace, because the more that we know, the more that you're educated, the more that you know what we're fighting for back here, it makes the 7th District strong. So thank you so much for having me.
All right. Before we get to Senator Short, just want to remind you that if we didn't get to your call tonight, please stay on the line. We have a voicemail system at the end of the call. Stay on the line and give us your question on our voicemail system. And finally, last but certainly not least, Senator Shelly Short.
It's been great to be with everybody tonight, and I'm so glad that this system works. You know, when you think of being in person and all of the travel that we do and you all do, it's nice that you can do it from your home. For those that didn't get their questions answered, certainly willing to talk with you folks. Leave your messages so we can make sure that we're answering your questions. And really, if there's anything else you have or you need help with, just get a hold of our offices. We just enjoy and are honored to be in this position fighting on your behalf. And so just thank you so very much for sending us here.
Thank you, Representatives Maycumber and Kretz and Senator Short. Live from the state capitol in Olympia, this has been Community Conversation. If you'd like to leave a message for your state lawmakers, hold on the line, and at the end of the call, you'll be connected to our voicemail system. You may also leave a message for your state lawmakers through the toll-free legislative hotline. That number is 1-800-562-6000. Again, that's 1-800-562-6000. Thanks to all of our participants tonight. On behalf of Representatives Jacueline Maycumber, Joel Kretz, and Senator Shelly Short, good night from the Washington State Capitol in Olympia.